Welcome to the Service, Business and Strategy Podcast, a podcast where we explore the service sector-based startups and business challenges, strategies, tips, tricks and advices to help you grow your startup and business sustainably and substantially. Welcome to the second episode on how to start a startup. I am Rohan Arote, a business strategy consultant, a keynote speaker, an entrepreneur, and your host. In this episode, we are going to explore how you can start a startup. In fact, here I'm going to talk about how can you start a successful startup right from the basics to its execution. Let me start off by asking you a question here. Which word do you feel is the most buzzing word right now, be it in school, colleges, or universities? Many of you would agree that campus placements are not as exciting as they were before. So the most buzzing word right now is the startup. Everyone wants to start a startup and work for themselves the way they want with no time and days mandate. They want to use their creativity and their experiences to the fullest to create a much better product than what out there is in the market already. So this word startup has attracted so many. It's not just limited to the young generation, but the C-suite executives as well. It has been a trend that the executives between ages 35 to 45 have been quitting their current corporate jobs and are putting in efforts to think about initiating their own startups or work with a startup from the most uncomfortable places or locations. Many giant corporations have also set up a different division which is into acquiring the startups and deploying a C-suite team to work on that startup. Also, the government of various countries, irrespective of whether they are developed or developing, they have launched startup schemes which focuses on supporting and helping the under-resourced startups to work aggressively on their idea and grow rapidly. So what is this startup really and how to really start one? Also, why did this word startup caught the attention of masses? Let's go by the basics first and understand what a startup is. A startup is a company set up in the marketplace with an intention to solve existing market problem or challenge in an effective, efficient, and innovative way. It has the entire business model built around a particular market's problem or challenge, and the scalability of this business model also depends on how big the problem is. In other words, startups are like doctors to the marketplace challenges and problems, and also who are focused on not just solving the problem but to further develop a train in the domain of that problem. Just like internet-based messengers like WhatsApp, Telegram, Facebook messengers, and many more are few of the best examples. Before these internet-based messengers, sending a text message was a very expensive affair. This also had a word limitation in each message. The media file-based messages like MMS were super expensive and not many really used it. The only free option then left was the email, but the emails were not that accessible or easy to use as they are today. Also, not everyone had an email ID, especially in developing countries like India. Email was very rare for personal use versus the office use. The launch of the internet-based messengers has affected the communication system today in a much positive manner. The ease of communicating with the person next to you or 1,000 miles away is the same today. Few taps on your touchscreen device called as mobile phone and the message is sent easily. It could be a message or an image or a video, all with the same ease as of sending a message. Now, if we start off with the list of what all problems did these messengers solve, then it will go long and long enough to end the episode. By not getting into this list, the focus here is on the startup solving problems, challenges of the marketplace, and how to really start a successful startup. When these startups like the internet-based messengers got acquired and funded, the founders got millionaires and billionaires in over a night. And this is the most attractive part which gathers the attention of many to start a startup. The meaning of the word startup in the current scenario is misunderstood by many They think that starting a startup is basically nothing but getting a good idea, implementing that idea, market the idea to people, and earn millions of dollars after selling that idea completely. Most of the generation today feel this is the apt formula to initiate the startup. However, allow me to put the reality on the desk here. That starting a startup with this mindset that they will earn millions if they start a startup at the start of it, then it is advisable that you don't start one in the first place. I know it is quite a harsh reality, but this is what it is. You are going to fail big and very early, that is for sure. No harm in having these goals and calculations at the back end, but this definitely should not be the primary goal. The primary goal of any startup must be to solve the problems or challenges of the marketplace in a way which have not been solved before. According to resources and statistics, 90% of the startups close down or fail in the first 5 years of their start. Here, we will focus on being one of the 10% of the startups who have survived and are growing successfully today. I believe we have established a very good foundation for understanding what really a startup is. Now we can jump right into how can one really start a startup and deploy a growth strategy. Step number 1 in the process of starting a startup is problem identification. I would re-quote what I said earlier. A successful startup is the one which identifies a problem or challenge of the marketplace, then designs an innovative, a unique, an efficient, and an effective solution in a business model or a revenue-making model. Any startup is incomplete without a problem statement, which then gets adopted a vision or mission statement for the given startup. I would in fact say it is more like a problem-solving statement which gets converted or adopted as a vision or a mission statement. Each market today has its own problems and challenges, and trust me, no market of any industry is a zero problem market. You first want to identify which market segment you would want to enter into. For example, you would like to enter into a fashion market or a health and wellness market, a digital market, or any other. The market segment is the first part to be decided. Now, the second thing is to understand how to decide which segment should I enter into. It is pretty simple and a little philosophical. You must have heard a quote which says, follow your passion, do what you like, work on what you really enjoy, and etc. So here I'm going to give you a set of questions which you can answer to find out your market segment. The first one could be, what work excites you? Or what work, if given a choice, would you want to do throughout your life? Or what work would you never leave incomplete in spite of all the impossibilities given to you? And the instant answer which comes, or the first thing which comes to your mind, could be the segment where you would want to work in. So let's say, for example, the work which really excites you and if given a choice, would want to pursue it throughout your life is designing clothes. Great. You have got your market segment identified. Immediately after you have identified the market segment, jump onto the problem identification of that particular industry. So in this case, it would be clothing and fashion marketplace or industry. There is a very famous quote by Albert Einstein which says, if I were given 1 hour to save the planet, I would spend 59 minutes defining the problem and 1 minute resolving it. And this is very much functional for all the startups. Your solution is not as important as you think. It is if you haven't spent enough time identifying the problem itself. So the next step here is to start looking out for problems of clothing and fashion marketplace or industry. And the best way to start immediately is by firing up your search engines and search for the news about clothing and fashion industry. Start reading about what is industry all about, what are the new updates, which are the new trends and similar information. While scanning through all these, you will start coming across, or you may start identifying a lot of gaps, which are the opportunities of the market around which you can really build a solid business plan. Don't immediately stop there. Try to search for as many gaps as possible in that particular marketplace, as these would be needed in the later stage. Once you have an exhaustive list of problems, challenges, or gaps of that marketplace, start going through each one of them. The best way to assess them is by using one of the simple parameters, which are like as follows. Number one is, how big is the problem? I would want you to consider two different point of views here. One as a customer or consumer, and second as a supplier or a dealer of that marketplace. It is very important to have this 2 point of views, as your solution may be helpful for a B2C or a B2B, or maybe to the both the consumers or the suppliers. If possible, try to measure the problem in terms of money and time, as service business revolves around money and time than anything else. In terms of money, how big is the problem or gap? You must know, is it that because of this problem or gap, the products or services are getting expensive, which could have been sold maybe 50% a lesser price than the original? Or when calculate about time, try and understand how big the problem or gap is. Is it that because of this problem or gap, the product or services are taking longer to get delivered or completed? A very good case could be of the food delivery startups. Restaurants are saving on both today time as well as money, and same is the case with the customers. They are saving on time as well as money. So try to evaluate the problem and measure it in terms of money and time, and you may choose to add other parameters based on your understanding of that industry. Try to do this exercise for the entire list of the problems, and once you are done, try to identify the top 3 or 5 problems and identify which ones are the major problems. The second question or parameter could be what the current existing solutions to those problems are and who is providing it. Here you may need to again go and do research for finding out a solution. This will help you recognize two things. One is to know the already existing solutions and how these solutions are helping to solve the problem. And second one, by identifying who are the ones solving them, you will get to know who possibly will be your direct or indirect competitors in the market when you launch. You can again make an exhaustive list of these solutions available, who are providing it, and how much is the problem really getting solved. You can again make an exhaustive list of the solutions available, who are providing it, and how much is the problem really getting solved by those solutions. You may have to do this to all the top 3 or top 5 problems which you had identified, and you need to work around it. Now filter out the ones which you feel are already being solved and you don't find a space there, or it's not a bigger problem now because there is already an existing solution. Now remember, there is always a scope for innovation and invention, but the choice always remains with you whether to go ahead and innovate or explore some other challenges that could be solved efficiently and effectively. The third question now comes is, how can I solve this particular problem or challenge in a more innovative way? Once you have spent a good amount of time on the problem, now you can shift your focus on the solutions. Here is where the real brainstorming sessions and late night coffee brainstorming meetings begin. Some also have sleepless nights thinking about the solution. However, let me be honest with you, it's not hard to find a solution if you know your problem well. Whenever my clients share a business challenge with me, my entire focus is always on finding the roots and not on giving them the solution right away. You can solve the problem, but you can kill the problem if you work on the roots of it. So try to go to the roots of the problem and the solution gets easier to be designed. Do not do what the existing solution providers are already doing. Definitely you can assess their solution and find their gaps and build a better version of it, but do not copy paste it. You will earn rewards in the service industry if you are being innovative. Then the fourth question is, how am I solving this problem in a different way? Remember, the market as well as investors are always going to ask you this question every single time. How are you different? Or what is that you are doing differently? Differentiation is the next golden key to go big for any startup or business today. The differentiation influences a lot of things in the business, right from pricing to designing your marketing creatives or advertisements. Everyone is interested in knowing how you are different. There are so many food delivery apps out there in the market, but each one has something different, and that is the space which they are competing for and are trying to create dominance in that space. Go to social media platforms. Each one is having something different. Like Twitter is more like a text update posting platform versus Instagram is a picture posting platform. Though both allow text and pictures posting, but the space which they are competing is totally different. Now there are more questions to this list which are going to help you launch your startup as well as will help you recourse your startup if you have already started one. But that part of the information would be shared in the next podcast episode. In the part 2, I will cover other aspects for starting a startup like the planning of resources, cost, marketing, team, infrastructure, and much more. So till the next episode releases, you can go through these 4 questions which we covered today and start your work around it. Till then, you stay connected with me on social media platforms with the handle name Rohan Arote or by sending an email on connect@rohanarote.com. That is CONNECT@ROHANAROTE.com or visit my website www.rohanarote.com. Thank you for listening to this episode. We shall connect in the next episode. Thank you.